Kailangan ko ba i-reintroduce yung sarili ko? Hindi na.
Opo, teach. And outro, short outro like before. Mag-chat ako teach ng go. Tapos tsaka po kayo mag-introduce.
Okay.
Or remove ko lang po tayo.
Oo nga. Ba't nag-echo? Ako ba yun?
Ako po ata.
Baka ako yun kasi naka-speaker ako. Teka, papatayin ko. Nawala? Okay na?
Opo, nawala na po. May echo sa inyo, teach?
Ay, yung connection ko naman yata ngayon. Make sure ko lang malakas. Okay, malakas naman. Naririnig mo ako, Ate Mikes?
Yes po, clear.
Hindi kita marinig.
Hello po. Check. Check.
Internal microphone, speaker. Ayun. Yan. Naririnig mo ako, Ate Mike?
Yes, teach. Dinig niyo po ako.
Yes, oo.
Yes.
May echo pa? Wala na.
Wala na po, teach.
Okay.
Sige, teach. Chat go po, then introduction po.
Okay.
Sige. Remove ko lang.
A peaceful day to you, dear teachers, dear Teach Peace champions. I am teacher Tin Canon, and I will be your Peace Education Leadership Formator for today. And today is a special topic. It's one of the things that are close to my heart because I believe it's also one of the most challenging things that we do as teachers, and that is keeping our classrooms at peace. Right? I'm sure it's challenging for you too to be able to make sure that your students are always listening, always paying attention, always following instructions and behaving properly. So we will dive deep into creating a peaceable classroom and school in today's session. So I'm going to be talking about different challenges that we experience in our school settings and what we can do as peace educators. Are you ready? I hope you are, and I'm sure you are. So for this session, it would be helpful if you have a notebook or something to write on so that you can engage in the reflection exercises that I will be giving you, because these reflection exercises are very important in problem solving, the discipline problems that we experience in our classrooms. I know that right now we are not seeing our students face to face, but they are studying in a modular fashion. However, we are hoping that very soon we will go back to our classrooms to welcome them. And I will be from time to time giving tips uh, for your home learning partners. So, whatever things you learn in this session, you can actually transfer them as guidelines and as coaching tips for your parents, partners who are enabling learning at home with their children. Okay? So, I think the first thing that we have to do right now is to understand our goal or our vision for what how does a school for peace education look like, feel like, sound like. So in this at this point, get your writing paper or notebook and your pens, and then draw an eye. Okay, draw an eye, and below that eye, um, what do you see? A school for peace education looks like this. What do you see? I see. So just finish the sentence. Below the I, you write, I see. What do you see? And then write it down. Okay? And then you also put a heart. Okay? This time you put a heart. You can put hands and a heart, or a heart made of hands like this, to signify how does a school for peace education feel like? What do you feel when you are in a school that espouses peace education? Anong feeling yan, di ba? So, how does it feel like? Okay? And then, write it down. A school for peace education feels like this and that. So you finish the sentence. So write it down. Okay? It's really important that for this session, you are engaging in the reflection activities with me so that you are learning not just by listening, but by also participating in the thinking exercises and in the reflection exercises. Lastly, I want you to draw an ear. Okay? Draw an ear, and under that ear, you write down, how does a school for peace education sound like? What do you hear in a school for peace education? So, write it down. So, that will tell us your vision. Okay? So, other questions that you can answer to help you formulate your vision for a school for peace education is answering these. Now, what do you see? How do you feel when you are inside a school for peace education? How do you think the students feel? How do they behave? What do you hear that students are saying in the school? What do you hear that teachers are saying? What do you hear that parents are saying when they are in the school? What kinds of words do they use? What language do they use when they are in a school for peace education? Ano yung maririnig natin ng mga salita? Diba? Ano yung mga bagay kaya na sasabihin ng students, ng teachers, and parents in a school for peace education? So, yan yung dream natin. Okay? So, I hope that you were able to list down very clearly to the point that when you read it, you can imagine how it looks like, you can imagine how it feels like, and you can imagine what words you hear when you are in that school for peace education. Okay? Masarap ba? Sarap ba ng feeling to be in a school for peace education just the way you imagined it to be? Siguro, you're imagining that you are seeing a very clean school because cleanliness is also part of peace, and a school wherein um, there are visuals that remind us of peace, right? So that can be part of what you see in a school for peace education. There will be pictures, paintings, posters that are expressing messages of peace. That can be one thing that you see there. And what do you feel when you're inside one? You may have written down there that you feel safe, you feel secure, you feel happy, joyful when you are in a school for peace education. And that you see that the students are also engaged and participating in the classes. You don't have to discipline them all the time or to tell them to be quiet. because they are cooperating. Maybe that's one thing you can also describe in a school for peace education. Maybe you are also describing what you hear by teachers saying, giving students positive feedback, compliments about the work that they have done, and maybe you are also hearing students greeting teachers with respect and with love and care, di ba? Or maybe you are hearing parents say thank you or expressing their gratitude for all the things that you do in a school for peace education. Ay, ang sarap. Ang sarap mangarap. So this is the ideal. So I'm saying when you envision, it's really a dream. But I know it is far from reality. And we always start with where we are. We always start with our reality. How do we get there in that vision? From here, from where we are. So this is a critical question that we should be able to answer. What? How do we make? How do we make the school representative of peace education? How do we make it look like a school for peace education? Anong gagawin ko para sa bawat bagay na makita ko dito sa school, it is reflective of a school for peace education? Or it can also be that what behaviors will I model as a teacher so that my students will feel safe, will feel secure, so that everybody will be joyful and everybody will be harmonious. Ano yung behaviors ko to elicit that feeling? Because that's a way to get there from where we are. Okay? So it is a process of transformation. Or it can be, what will I say so that I model to students, co-teachers, and parents the language of peace, so that the language of peace is what we will hear when we are in our school. And so it starts with you, right? So that's the big realization here, that to get to your vision of a school for peace education, it has to start somewhere. And it starts with me. Because you cannot control the people around you, but you can control yourself. You cannot force them to act, to behave, to say peaceful things, to show peaceful things, but you can do it by starting with yourself. And I call that, no? And if there's one of you, and there's two of you, there's three of you teachers who will start embarking on this, you are now actually creating conditions for a culture of peace in schools. That's how we create culture. We initiate it, we start it, we model it, we live it. We become agents of peace when we become the change we wish to see in others. Di ba? Yon, gusto ko yun eh. I think it was Mahatma Gandhi, my peace hero, who said that as well. All right. So that is something that is very important in our discussion for today. So before we start, I'd like you to view this video with me about creating the conditions for a culture of peace in schools, and it starts by a positive school climate and a sense of belonging. Because when students are in a school where they feel positive, while they feel they belong, then it is possible to have a school for peace education. Let's watch this video. Wow! So that was helpful. I hope you found it helpful too. So, based on the video, I want you to list down at least three things that the teachers in the video did to create a positive school climate and to nurture or foster a sense of belonging with the students. Ano yung mga ginawa ng mga teacher in the video that you saw that fosters a sense of belonging in the students and overall created a positive school climate, no? So when students or when children feel that they belong, when they feel that they are safe, the natural tendency is for the entire school to be a safe space for everyone. And we call that a positive school climate. Okay? So school culture is different from school climate. When we say school climate, it is the feel of the school, how individuals feel when they are in that environment. So this is where we go back to what you envision of a peace education school. Remember, how does it feel like? So ito yon. So I hope you were able to list down at least three things that that the teachers did that created a positive school climate and a sense of belonging. Why am I asking you to list this down? Well, it's because I want you to try them. Okay? So I want you to adapt these new attitudes or these new skills and practices that we see in exemplary videos like this about teaching and learning processes and about our student relationship that would help us teachers improve our own practice. And our goal, di ba? Remember our goal is to create a school for peace education. In order to get there, we have to start with ourselves, and that means starting new practices or new behaviors that will create positive school climate and a sense of belonging. Okay, so you now have three new things to do that. Okay, now why is this important? Okay, now I know that creating these conditions will be challenging, especially if you yourself as a teacher, wala ka sa mood. You are experiencing problems internally, no? And that's hard because it's hard to set aside our personal burdens from what our daily tasks are that we have to fulfill each day. That's one challenge that we need to overcome as teachers because we are dealing, especially with young children, who um, feel the emotions that we are trying to hide or the emotions that we are feeling, whether we are showing it or not. Okay. Now, it's also challenging to create these conditions when it's our students who are experiencing burdens or problems internally. And it comes out as behavior problems or as discipline problems in school, right? Buti sana kung tayo lang kasi tayong adults, we can self-regulate. May maturity na tayo. So the expectation on us is to be able to be professional at all times, especially when we are dealing with our students. But for our students, they don't have that capacity yet. They are still developing the executive functions in order for them to manage their emotions and to manage their problems. And especially problems that they have no control of, di ba? So poverty is one problem that they have no control of as young children. Yet they experience it. Nakikita nila ito, nararamdaman nila yung stress ng mga magulang nila kapag wala silang ulam or kapag wala silang resources or pambayad for the little things that they need on a daily basis. Okay, now why am I saying this? Right? So as teachers, we have the task of classroom management. Aside from classroom management as our task, as a peace education school, we are also tasked as peace teachers or as peace educators to make sure that we are creating these conditions of that nurture positive school climate. And if we're doing positive school climate, we are actually contributing to high levels of student engagement time. Okay? So, pag maganda ang way natin ng classroom management, and I call it peaceful classroom management, when we know how to manage our classmates, our classrooms in a peaceful way, it results into two things. One is that we are creating the condition for a positive climate and a sense of belonging. And number two, we are actually bringing up the level of achievement in our classrooms. So napakahalaga nito, di ba? Na yung little that we invest as teachers in caring for our students and in managing our classrooms by disciplining them results in high levels of student engaged time. And when students are fully engaged, then they will participate and that will make them learn and that will bring up their achievement levels. So napakahalaga niya, no? It's a task that we have to think as teachers. We are not only tasked with delivering instruction or distributing modules so that for the students to complete. We have a bigger or a higher calling, which is to nurture sense of belonging in our students so that they will want to learn from us, so that they will want to learn, period, so that when they do learn, they will be performing better, achieving better results academically, and that will push them forward in their future learning and development. But the truth is, we are also faced with this challenge as teachers. Alam ko may pressure sa atin ang classroom management. 'Di ba? Pagdadaan ang supervisor natin, naku, kailangan tahimik yung klase ko, hindi magulo. 'Di ba? Yun yung lagi natin iniisip, no? Bakit? Kasi how well you manage student behavior is crucial to your success as a teacher. So tatandaan natin na our jobs as teacher, like I said, is not just delivering curriculum instruction. Our jobs as teacher is to make sure our students are developing happily, healthily, so that they will want to learn and so that they will invest in their future by studying or by staying in school until they graduate from high school and perhaps pursuing college life. Now, the behavior that is exhibited in the classroom affects how people view us. And it matters to us as teachers because we get affected by how our administrators view our classrooms, right? Siyempre, ayaw natin mapupuna tayo. Ayaw natin na makikriticize tayo, di ba? And our behavior is also affected by peers, by our colleagues. It's also affected by parents' opinions, by the students themselves, and how they view your classroom. So, you view your competence as a teacher. Your view of your competence as a teacher depends on how you manage your classroom. Okay? So, ganun siya kahalaga. Ako, ang lagi ko nang tinatandaan, lahat ng bagay na mahalaga gawin ay mahirap gawin. So, I will not mask this and I will not tell you na, uy guys, madali lang mag-manage ng classroom peacefully. It's a challenge that I meet every day when I am faced with my students, no? So, that's the truth. And it doesn't get easier each time, no? Kasi nagbabago every year yung classroom, yung students nyo. And problems with discipline is actually one or number one reason for our stress as teachers, no? And sometimes it is also a reason for some of us to leave the profession kasi sobra kami stress dahil sa pag-manage ng classroom behavior, nagkakasakit ka. Pag nagkasakit ka, hindi ka function as an educator, and so mag-iisip ka, baka hindi ito para sa akin, or baka dapat iba na lang yung trabaho ko, yung less stressful, di ba? Yun yung mga iniisip natin. And I know that there are a lot of days when we feel like this in the comic, no, that you will see, no, where the mom is saying, I know the kids don't like you and they pick on you, but you have to go to school. You're the teacher. Hindi ba dapat ganun yung ano dyan? Yun yung laging sinasabi natin, no? Um, uh, we are the teacher, no? Hindi po pwedeng tayo yung malilate or tayo yung hindi papasok. So, hindi natin pwede kalimutan or talikuran yung role natin. So, next part of your reflection, I want you to make a list, okay? Kahit top 3 or top 5 lang. No? Kung mas marami doon, sana hindi naman. No? So, what classroom behaviors do you find difficult to manage? Ano yung mga ginagawa ng mga estudyante that you find challenging for you to manage? No? Are they disrupting your discussion when you are giving a lecture or discussing a topic to them, and then laging nag-i-interrupt? Pwedeng that's difficult to manage, di ba? Or umaalis ng classroom, hindi nagpapaalam, di ba? Bigla na lang siya nawawala or nag-walk out ng classroom. That's classroom behavior that's difficult to manage kasi isa lang siyang aalis tapos nagtuturo ka pa. Alam nga namang hahabulin mo siya at iiwanan mo yung klase mo, di ba? That would not be effective as well. So you have to find ways to make both things work, no? So, are you listing it down? Okay, I hope you are. So, to help you answer this question, we have to find out how to identify difficult behaviors. Minsan kasi sasabihin natin makulit, yung bata makulit. Makulit is an adjective, no? It describes the behavior of a student, no? Of a certain child. However, it's not a difficult behavior, right? It's not a difficult behavior, or it's not a classroom management problem. So you know it's a management or a discipline problem in class when, number one, it affects the setup of your classroom. Halimbawa, when the child misbehaves, nai-interrupt yung flow ng classroom mo. Or nare-rearrange yung furniture. Yung ganun ka grabe, di ba? It's physical, no? So, I observed a class before wherein the students were throwing their trash to the back of the classroom by not standing up and walking to the trash can. They would just throw and hope that it shoots inside the waste basket. So that is a behavior, it's a classroom management behavior that affects the setup of the classroom. Bakit siya na-affect yung setup of the classroom? Ewan ko sa inyo, pero ako, affected ako pag nakikita ko maraming mga papel-papel or trash na wala sa loob ng trash can. Di ba? Nandun siya lahat sa labas ng trash can at nasa sahig siya ng classroom at yung likod ng classroom napakakalat. And I found that super disturbing because the teacher still was teaching, continuing to teach, but not teaching the lesson or teaching a harder lesson, which is a life lesson of keeping things in order inside your home or your place or your environment. Diba? Kasi ang kalat ng classroom so it affects the setup of the classroom. You have to address that. Another thing, if it disrupts the routine of the class, when the student misbehaves, masisira na yung lesson flow nyo or yung class flow nyo to the point na minsan, hindi mo na matatapos yung lesson or may activity ka na hindi nabigay. So that affects the routine of the class. And usually, kapag may dalawang batang nag-away, kunwari, nag-away sila while in the class, no? And that sometimes happens when you are conducting class and then may mag-away, you put your attention to the conflict and then nawawala na yung flow ng lesson. Diba? Yun. Another thing is when it affects the classmates' relationship to each other, wherein you find yourself neglecting the needs of other students, no? Na you're just focusing on this student who you feel need you more than the others, okay? But remember that in a class, everybody needs your time, your attention as much as anybody else. Not because mas nagmi-misbehave to or ito, what is we call slow learner, will require more attention from us, no? Those students who are thriving are actually thriving because of the kind of attention that you are giving them as well. So you have to think about how it's affecting relationships to each other. So halimbawa, kung nag-neglect ka ng ibang estudyante, ma-accuse ka na, ay, may favoritism si teacher, oh. Si teacher, yan lang lagi, pinapansin sa klase namin. Kapag nakakarinig ka na ng ganon, then there is a difficult behavior that you have to address in your classroom. Okay. Another thing to ask is, does it affect the child's performance or disposition? Self-esteem, the child's response to the class. So for example, ayaw na pumasok ng bata. May nangyari na hindi mo alam, tapos nun, bigla na lang siya nag-decide, ayoko nang pumasok. So that is a difficult behavior. That's a challenging behavior that you have to address as well. So I hope you were able to identify the difficult behaviors that you have encountered in the past, because we are going to use that for another task later on. Okay. Now, sometimes these difficult behaviors are actually expected behaviors of the age that they are in. Okay. So, halimbawa, sa age 5 to 6, usong-uso yung inggitan. And then, mapapansin mo, may mga bata na yung nagbabite ng nails o kaya may aggressive behavior, yung bata na nambabato pag nagagalit siya or namamalo pag nagalit siya, may aggression na gano'n or gumagante, di ba? Usual yan. So 5 to 6 years old, you still see that happening among children. I'm not saying that this is normal, but these are difficult behaviors that are commonly experienced in this age group. Okay? Now, 7 years old and up, ito na, nag-uumpisa na sila magsinungaling, mag-lie, or mag-cheat kasi gusto nila pumasa, or they destroy property, they vandalize the tables, no? Bullying behaviors start to appear at this age also. They say a lot of bad words kasi naririnig nila from the adults, the adult models that they are surrounded with. And sometimes they also go into stealing kasi galing ito doon sa jealousy na perhaps unresolved noong mas bata sila. So these are usual difficult behaviors that we see in young children, no? In the children that we handle. Now, what ang importante dito is how we respond. What do you do, no? Maybe some of these things you also listed down as a difficult classroom problem that you have in your list, no? So, what do you do when students misbehave? When you see behaviors like this, do you A, B, or C? O sige, tingnan natin ha, kung ano ang response ni teacher. So, is it A, you explain and give logical consequences about the student's behavior? You ask them to go to the corner or the quiet chair, or you give them space, no? Hayaan nyo muna, and then mamaya kakausapin nyo yung bata after the class, no? Na, alam mo, anak, napansin ko kanina, nung ginawa mo ito ang naging epekto. So, ikaw ba, ganyan ka bang klaseng teacher? Or letter B ka, na minsan napapasigaw tayo, di ba? Pag nagagalit tayo or kapag nainis talaga tayo sa estudyante, mapapataas ang boses natin. And that really happens. Tao lang naman kasi din tayo, di ba? So, and then you decide I will just give you a 0 because you are cheating, or I will give you a 0 because you were not following what I was telling you, di ba? Pwedeng ganon. Or you can have dati uso pa lalo na sa schools, no? Ngayon bawal na ang corporal or physical punishments, no? Or you can also do removal of privileges. So for example, ay hindi kita bibigyan ng bonus points because ito ang ginawa mo. Okay? Removal of privileges. Do you do B? Or are you a letter C? Wherein hindi mo na lang papansinin. Anyway, wala namang ibang apektado. No? Hindi ko na lang yan papansinin. Or, pagbibigyan mo yung estudyante para tumigil siya. You give in to the desire to stop the misbehavior. Or altogether, you can just do nothing. No? Pretend it didn't happen na lang. Kasi marami kang ginagawa eh. As a teacher, ang dami kaya nating inaasikaso. Hindi ko na kaya na lahat yan iisa-isahin ko pa. Diba? Are you A? Are you B? Are you C? Write it down. Okay? So, now that you have decided which one, let's see what these styles are, or these what you call discipline styles. Okay, so A is a more authoritative or collaborative discipline style. This is where you take on an authoritative stance, no? Where the parents, or if you're a parent, or the teachers are warm towards and supportive of their students, no? And they encourage verbal give and take. So, nag-explain ka kung bakit hindi maganda yung behavior ng estudyante, pero tinatanong mo rin yung estudyante, bakit mo ba nagawa yun? Ano bang nangyayari? Or ano bang iniisip mo? What were you thinking that made you do that? Diba? Gusto mong maintindihan kung ano yung perspective ng estudyante mo. And you give a disciplinary sanction that is supportive rather than punitive. Okay, so anong ibig sabihin nito? So pag nagbigay ka ng sanction sa kanya, ayan tuloy, dahil ginawa mo yan, hindi ang epekto niyan ganito. Di ba? So, based dun sa effect ng misbehavior, yung punishment na mare-receive ng bata or yung sanction. Now, you are a B, authoritarian, when the emphasis is on obedience, order, and respect for authority. There is no verbal negotiation about the rules. So, ito yung authoritarian is the discipline style wherein I am the boss and you are the subordinate. Whatever I say is non-negotiable. You have to follow it because I'm the authority. So you are concerned with controlling behavior so that pupils comply with a set of standards. So magbibigay ka ng 0 kahit na hindi connected yung seat work or na binigyan mo ng 0 doon sa incident na involved yung estudyante. Doesn't matter to you. Basta bibigyan ng 0 or ibabagsak kita kasi nag-vandalize ka ng bathroom door ng school. Okay. So that's very authoritarian. You are concerned with controlling the behavior. Pero walang assurance na magbe-behave yung bata. Kasi minsan, the problem with an authoritarian stance is that the students who grow up or who are exposed to an authoritarian stance will fear punishment, will follow rules because they fear punishment, not because they understand the benefits of the rules. Okay? So, walang critical thinking masyado. Walang decision making masyado. So, they will grow up to be children, to be adults who cannot make up their minds or who cannot make their own decisions kasi nasanay sila na sinasabi lang kung ano ang dapat gawin nila at hindi dapat gawin. So kapag faced with options, mahihirapan sila kasi depende sa sabi ng boss ko or sa sabi ni teacher kung ano lang yung pwede ko gawin. Okay? So, hindi sila kayang mag-come up with a solution to a problem kasi nasanay sila because there's always an authority who is making decisions for them. Now, if you are a C, then you are being permissive or neglectful. Alam nyo, a lot of times, akala ng marami, pag peace educator ka, permissive ka. Pag peace educator ka, kasi mabait ka, hindi ka magdidiscipline. Naku, hindi po totoo yun. Because peace needs order, right? And peace is actually making right what was wrong. So, hindi pwede nating tinotolerate ang wrong behavior in peace to establish peace or to create a culture of peace. We cannot tolerate or just accept bad behavior. Hindi po pwede. So, you may be warm, accepting, tolerant, but you are also indulgent. You have little authority over the pupils. No? So, kapag permissive and neglectful, they don't regard you as an authority. Yung parang, yan mo na, papayag naman yung si teacher eh. Sabihin mo lang, ganito, papayag na yung si teacher. It's very committed to their pupils. That's good. But you make few demands for responsible and mature behavior. Kasi sa thinking ng permissive teacher, hayaan mo na, kakaawa naman. Hayaan mo na, mapapahiya. Hayaan mo na, baka kasi, hindi na yan pumasok kapag ka dinisiplina. Yon, no? May fear yung adult or yung authority to sanction or to implement discipline. So, sumobra naman, di ba? No. But in peace education or in a peaceful classroom management, you can be firm with the rules, but you can also be and should be kind in the way you implement these rules. Alright? So, yun yung dapat natin tandaan kasi that relies on that. So, I hope that this exercise helped you to also reflect on ano ba ako? Authoritative ba ako? Or authoritarian ba ako? O permissive ako? And dito sa three styles na to, makikita nyo na yung authoritative style is closer to what a peace educator should be in terms of establishing peaceful classroom management. So yun ang kailangan natin matutunan and we will journey to get there. Okay? How? We need to understand what discipline means. No? We need to understand ano ba yung perception ko ng pagdidisiplina? Paano ka ba dinisiplina nung bata ka? So I want you to answer these questions or finish these sentences in your notebook or in the paper that you are using for this exercise. First is, what do you know about discipline? So, try to describe what discipline is or what it means. Discipline is pwedeng one word lang, or pwede siyang phrase, or pwede siyang sentence. Okay? What do you know about discipline? Alright. Nasulat nyo na? Yes. Okay. I think that encapsulates what your view of discipline is. And think, is discipline more of your stance as an authoritative, your stance as an authoritarian, or your stance as permissive? No, depende sa style nyo. And your style will actually define how you view discipline. But another thing that affects how we view discipline is how we were disciplined as children. So answer the question, how were you disciplined as a child? Napalo ka ba? Uso ba yung pamamalo sa pamilya ninyo? Sa amin kasi, oo. No? Ako hindi ako napalo, good girl ako. Pero lahat ng kapatid ko napalo ng sinturon at sinelas. Di ba? Kung depende ko anong hawak ng tatay ko, kung sinturon or sinelas, pero tatay ko yung tagapalo. Never my mom. Okay? So, how were you disciplined as a child? Yan. Dapat natin isulat yan. Or, kinakausap pa kayo ng parents nyo, or ginaground ba kayo na parang, oh, hindi ka na pwede lumabas dahil ganito, ginawa mo. Diba? Pwede ganun. And another question to ask is, how do you think that kind of disciplining as a child affected your style as a teacher? Meron bang mga paraan ng pagdidisiplina sa'yo nung bata ka na ngayon ginagawa mo ngayon na ikaw naman ang teacher or kung ikaw naman ay magulang, kung paano ka nagdidisiplina? Okay. And sulat mo yon. Write it down. Document your thoughts. No? When we are reflecting, dapat sinusulat natin. Kasi para babalikan natin kung ano yung sinulat natin. And what you will realize is that pwede pa na magbago to, pwede pa na magbago ang reflections ko. Alam niyo yung minsan, meron kayong notes, tapos nakalimutan nyo na siya, and then mababasa nyo siya after 2 years, nung na-chance pa nyo, tapos sasabihin nyo, I can't believe sinabi ko to. Talaga, ang weird ko naman, di ba? Parang yung ganon. So, because you evolve and you change. But, if you document it, you will never know if you changed for the better. You will never know if you improve. So, write it down. Okay. So, now that we know what our view of discipline is and how we were disciplined as young children, then let me give you a definition of discipline. Okay? So when we talk about discipline, and this was my discovery 2 years ago, when I decided to embrace peace education and to embrace positive discipline or peaceful discipline methods, ang nalaman ko, ang ganda. Discipline comes from the word disciple. Wow. And if you are a disciple, you are actually a follower, a believer, you are also a pupil, you are a learner. Ha? Parang confusing. Di ba? Ang alam natin sa discipline, ikaw yung taga-palo, ikaw yung taga-sigaw, ikaw yung taga-punish, no? However, to discipline means to follow what the children's needs are, okay? To follow their developmental pattern, to respect their developmental pattern. Kaya pinakita ko sa inyo kung ano yung expected misbehaviors ng edad 5 to 7, tsaka edad 8 years old and above, di ba? Kasi we have to follow expected behaviors for their particular age, no? Next is we believe. We believe that they can change. We believe that they can learn. We believe that they can transform into better students, into better individuals. And that means that the discipline is also to learn, no? That they can still learn from their mistakes. Yan ang pagdidisiplina. Discipline is not the punishment. It's never the punishment that you give to the pupils, no? Discipline is following their lead, believing they can change, and that they can learn to be better. All right? I like this quote from the book on positive discipline, which says, misbehavior is an opportunity to teach a new behavior. So mistakes are a wonderful opportunity to learn. Oh, di ba? Napaka-growth mindset ng tingin sa discipline, no? Sa misbehavior, lalo na. No? That misbehavior or mistakes or failures, di ba? They are opportunities to learn. So, kahit sa buhay natin, maa-apply natin yan, di ba? So, we need to reframe the way we view discipline, no? That it's an opportunity to teach a new behavior. And once we understand that, then uh, we can use different methods or more peaceful methods when we are managing behavior and when we are disciplining children. So, pero para sa akin, you can only change behavior if you understand where it's coming from. Okay? So, ito mahirap to kasi ako naniniwala ako, di ba sabi ko sa inyo kanina, you cannot control other people. You cannot change the way they behave, right? You can only change your response, right? So I said that, and that's also true for young children. The way I respond to children when they misbehave will actually be the one to teach them to change themselves. Okay? So, my response to a misbehaving child depends on how much or how well I understand the needs of this misbehaving child. Ang tawag dyan, empathy. No? How much do I empathize with this misbehaving child? At mahirap gawin yan. Kasi kapag nagmi-misbehave ang bata, nagagalit tayo eh. Naiinis tayo. Yun ang unang response natin. Di ba? Pero ngayon, dahil our goal is to create positive school climate, to nurture sense of belonging, to create the conditions for peace education, then it changes the way we respond. No? Now I have to respond by understanding why my student is misbehaving. Okay? And from that same book, it says that when we understand the purpose of misbehavior, bakit ba nagmi-misbehave ang mga bata? No? Bakit nila ginagawa yung mga bagay na hindi nila dapat gawin? Bakit sila uh, pasaway? Diba? Lagi natin ginagamit yung term na yun. Bakit ba sila pasaway? So I like this quote that says, a misbehaving child is usually a discouraged child. A cooperative child is an encouraged child. But misbehaving children have mistaken ideas on how to achieve their primary goal. At ano yung goal na yon? They simply want to belong. Okay? When children misbehave, it is a signal that I want people to like me, but I don't know how. This is the way I know how they like me. So I will do this. Kaso mali yun. They have a mistaken idea on how to belong. Okay? Pero ang gusto lang naman nila, mahalin sila, tanggapin sila, and to feel that they belong. So we go back to nurturing that sense of belonging, which is very important in a school for peace education. Okay? So, kailangan maintindihan natin bakit nag-misbehave ang bata. So, ang una nating iisipin, kapag may nag-misbehave, naku, ito na naman yung anak ko. No? Ako kasi yung mga estudyante ko, tawag ko sa kanila mga anak. No? So, ito na naman yung isa kong anak. Pasaway talaga. Siguro kasi gusto niya, cool siya, gusto niya bilib sa kanya yung mga classmates niya, kaya yan, nag-vandalize o yan, sinira yung isang gamit sa school, di ba? Pwedeng ganon. So, you may be able to tell the purpose of this behavior through the feelings it generates from you. Di ba? How do you feel when your students misbehave? So, yan ang magsasabi sa'yo kung ano yung purpose niya. Okay? So, may iba-ibang purpose ang bata for misbehaving, di ba? Yes, they wanna belong. That's the primary goal. But the mistaken ways to belong is what they do as misbehaviors. Now, we will know what is the purpose. Bakit sila nag-misbehave? By the feelings it generates in you. Kung ano yung reaction mo. Okay, tingnan natin. Start natin to. When the students misbehave and you feel annoyed, ito yung naiinis ka lang. Yung parang sasabihin mo lang sa brain mo, hindi ka magre-react, sasabihin mo lang sa isip mo, ay nakakainis talaga to, pampasira. No? Lahat ng estudyante ko ay nag-drawing, no? Nag-drawing ng heart. Pero siya pasaway talaga. Ayaw talaga mag-drawing ng heart. Gusto niya, baril yung i-drawing niya. No. Yeah, nainis ka. Nainis ka kasi nag-misbehave yung bata. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, kapag naiinis ka lang, kapag nag-misbehave ang bata, the child is seeking attention. Nagpapapansin. Okay? So, and kung papansinin nyo, yung seeking attention or attention-seeking behavior, it is a way for children to feel that they belong. Kasi papansinin mo no? Papansinin mo negatively. Pero pinansin mo pa rin. Di ba? And children thrive on attention whether it's positive or it's negative. Okay. So, tingnan natin, ano ba itong mga attention-seeking behaviors nito? Ito yung pwedeng nanunukso sila, yung nagne-name calling sila ng ibang mga kaklase, or habang nagtuturo ka, they're making unnecessary noises, yung tinatap yung pencil doon sa table para mag-ingay, yung mga pasimpleng ganyan, or nagpapatawa sila, nagka-crack sila ng joke in the middle of a lesson, or kahit seryoso, or magsasalita ng bad words, so yan, or very disrespectful. So these are usually dubbed as attention-seeking behavior. So many times, when students are seeking attention, when children are seeking attention, ang ibig sabihin lang naman yan, di ba sinasabi nga natin, kulang sa pansin. No? Minsan na tayo as adults, nagpapapansin din tayo sa boyfriend natin, sa girlfriend natin, sa spouse natin, di ba, sa asawa natin, or sa mga anak natin, nagpapapansin tayo. Nangyayari din yun, attention seeking, kasi you wanna feel that you belong. No? But these students are using attention-seeking behaviors to belong, but they're not using the right attention-seeking behaviors. Many times, this occurs because students are not getting the recognition that they feel they deserve. So when they are misbehaving to seek attention, it means that pansinin nyo naman yung iba kong ginagawang mabuti. Yun ang gusto nilang sabihin. If they cannot get attention for their positive behaviors, baka nagkukulang po tayo sa pagpansin when they submit their modules on time, when they complete work, or when they arrive on time. They will actually seek that attention in inappropriate behaviors. For example, they continually calling out, or ayaw nila sumunod, they refuse to work, or ask irrelevant questions, yung nagdi-disrupt lang ng classroom, na nakakainis. Diba? So, ano ang dapat nating gawin kapag they are seeking attention? Kapag they are seeking attention in a negative way, no? Ignore the bad behavior, but make sure you praise the good behavior. Okay? Recognize good behavior in all your students. That's a way to avoid attention-seeking behaviors in some students who will want to seek recognition in a negative way. All right? So that's one thing you can do. Ignore the bad behavior kasi you want to extinguish the attention-seeking behavior that is not healthy, but you want to recognize the attention-seeking behavior that is good. For example, getting a perfect score on the quiz. That's good behavior. Throwing their trash in the proper place and sorting it. That's good behavior. Greeting you appropriately or greeting your guests in the school appropriately. That's good behavior that you have to recognize. Diba? Konti lang yun. Marami pang example dyan. Kasi tayong mga Pilipino, minsan mas madali magpuna. Diba? Minsan mas madali ipunahin yung mali kesa sa pagpansin sa tama. And human nature natin yan, no? Pero as peace educators, we are called to go beyond that. Okay? We are called for a higher purpose, which is, in this instance, recognizing the good behavior. Okay, kaya ba natin to? Ha? So, pag nagpapapansin at naiinis ka, ignore. Okay? But, pag may ginawang mabuti, kailangan pansinin ninyo para mawala yung attention-seeking na negative ways. Okay? Here, Okay. Next, when the student misbehaves and then you feel threatened, no? Ano ba tong threatened, no? Uh, ito yung parang sasabihin ng bata sa'yo, susumbong kita sa daddy ko, susumbong kita sa tatay ko, may baril yon. Ayan, ako, life-threatening. Hindi lang threatened ka, no? Pati buhay mo, life-threatened, di ba? So, when the students misbehave and you feel threatened, o kaya sasabihin ng estudyante, ayoko na pumasok sa klase mo. Yan, you feel threatened, di ba? Or hindi na ako papasok sa eskwelahan na to. You feel threatened kasi syempre, you will feel responsible, magigilty ka na, naku, hindi na siya papasok dahil pinagalitan ko, di ba? So the student misbehaves and you feel threatened, then the child is seeking power. Okay, ano ibig sabihin nito? The child feels powerless. Okay? And usually, this stems from, bata lang ako eh, wala naman ako magagawa. That kind of mentality. So, on our end, as teachers, maybe we need to give them more opportunity to feel empowered, di ba? In a healthy manner. So, what do we need to understand when there is a power struggle? When the student misbehaves and you feel threatened, tapos ang pinatulan mo, sabi mo, di wag ka na pumasok, di ba? Parang pinatulan mo, di sumbong mo ako sa tatay mo, tingnan natin, may baril din naman ako eh. Kung yun ang sagot mo, you have lost the battle. You have lost the battle. Pinatulan mo kasi. Alam mo namang ikaw yung adult, bata yun, no? Power struggle happens when they are always saying no, ayaw ka sundin, they throw a tantrum, or they insist on what they want. Now, students feel inferiority, so they try to be your boss, no? Kasi lagi na lang, porket bata ako, inuutusan ako. Lagi na lang, porket bata ako, hindi ako pwedeng mag-decide. Hindi ako pwedeng gumawa ng sarili kong paraan. Kailangan kung ano lang sinabi sa akin, yun lang yung susundin ko. That's the way they feel, no? However, tandaan nyo, pag pinatulan nyo, once the battle has been joined, Lana, the student has already won it. Okay? So, yun yung talo ka. No? Talo ka. Ang laki ng talo mo pagka you enter into a power struggle. So, what do you do? Okay? So, when you feel threatened, student misbehaves and you feel threatened, student is seeking power, what do you do? Okay, kapag bata pa, yung kinder pa lang yung bata, or grade 1, grade 2, yan, you have to redirect. You help the child find an alternative activity that is similar to what he was doing. Don't give in, no? Kapag sabi ng bata, teacher, I want to paint. Gusto ko mag-paint. Kasi doon sa table na yon nagpe-paint yung mga classmate ko. Gusto ko doon. Tapos sasabihin mo, mamaya na, kasi hindi pa sila tapos. Kapag may bakante ng upuan doon, pwede kang lumipat doon. Tapos sasabihin ng bata, gusto ko ngayon hindi pwede. Tapos magagalit, susumbong kita sa mami ko or susumbong kita sa tatay ko. Kaya na, magpa-power struggle na kayo. No? You redirect. Find an alternative activity that is similar to what you was doing. Ganito na lang, bigyan kitang crayon habang naghihintay ka, mag-color ka muna. Tapos pagka may vacant chair na, pwede ka nang lumipat sa painting table. Okay, nag-redirect ka lang. Diba? You did not give in. Hindi mo pinaalis yung isang bata sa painting table para ma-accommodate yan kasi tinatakot ka. Okay? Alright. Ngayon, pag 7 years old and up yung bata, you have to show them who the boss is. And tayo, as leaders, as peace and leaders, we have to model being authoritative leaders, no? Being a good leader. We have to model. And from the start, as the teacher, we are that model. We have to model leadership skills. We have to be fair. We have to empower students by giving them responsibilities that they will be successful in. Okay? So kapag inumpisahan mo yung classroom management style mo in this way, by being a boss who is respected, by being a teacher leader who is kind, yet firm with the rules and consistent with the rules, then you will earn their respect. Yeah. They will feel secure. Students will feel secure that my teacher knows what she's doing. Kasi hindi siya nararattle. Hindi nagpapanik si teacher kapag may nag-misbehave. No? So, hindi nagagalit, naninigaw, nambabato ng chalk pag nag-misbehave yung class. Iba yung paraan ni teacher. Pero susunod pa rin yung mga bata. Okay? That's a good leader. Alright? So, I hope that helped you in assessing. So, kung napapansin nyo, yung attention-seeking behavior, kapag hindi natin yun nagawang positive, mag-e-escalate yon into threatening behavior. Okay? Yung attention-seeking behavior dati, kapag hindi natin in-address, naging permissive tayo, magiging threatening behavior siya. Okay? So, umaakyat na, no? No, we are actually growing the children's misbehavior if we are being permissive, if we are not addressing it properly. Okay. Now, next is what happens when the student misbehaves and na-hurt ka. And usually, alam nyo, pag na-hurt tayo, din tayo nagagalit. You feel angry. You feel angry to the point na gusto mo i-fail yung bata. Okay? Gusto mo gumante. Diba? And ganun din yung bata. When you feel hurt, it means that child wanted to hurt you out of revenge. Merong nangyari in the past, pwedeng napahiya mo siya, pwedeng na-ignore mo siya, wrongfully, to the point na gusto niyang bawian ka. Gusto niyang bumawi. No? That's revenge. Okay? Now, when this happens, medyo deep-seated na to. And these behaviors come out in this way. For younger children, it's very aggressive. No? Yung mga 5, 6, 7 years old, aggressive behaviors like biting, hitting, kicking, spitting, dinuduraan yung kaklase or yung teacher, naninira ng gamit, or nagkakalat, or nagbabato. Yan. They retaliate against others for the way they feel they have been unfairly treated. And they hurt others either physically or psychologically. They will lie, make up stories. That's also a revenge behavior to get back at you. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if you feel hurt when the child misbehaves, na-hurt mo din siya possibly dati. Or maybe hindi ikaw yung cause ng hurt. Pwedeng the child is hurting by or was hurt by parents, by siblings, by other classmates. That can be a possibility too, no? And ikaw na lang yung champion niya as the teacher. So what do we do when this happens? Okay. When you're hurt, remember, our tendency when we're hurt is we get angry. Nagagalit tayo. So we need to cool off. Yeah, cool off. I noticed that it takes our brain about 10 seconds before we respond using our higher brain or what we call your prefrontal cortex. Yan yung mas matured brain mo. Pag limbic, dito sa baba yon na response, no? Yung galit, dito galing yon as a response. Yung bigla kang nagalit dahil sa nangyari. It's a limbic or a lower brain response, no? And children respond here kasi hindi pa nila na ma-master how to respond using the prefrontal cortex. Tayo mga adults nga, minsan hindi natin ma-master yan eh, no? Yung minsan nagagalit tayo agad, no? Ibig sabihin, we're using our lower brain to make decisions for us. So you wait 10 seconds, you cool off before you say something, before you respond. Okay? So you cool off, hinga ka muna. 10 counts. Breathe in, breathe out. Until nag-iisip ka na ng sasabihin mo na hindi makakasakit, kundi makakatulong sa sitwasyon. Okay. So, ibig sabihin nakapag-cool off ka. So, don't forget, when you get hurt, some of you get angry, and when you get angry, you have to wait for 10 counts before you respond so that you are giving your brain a chance to process the information at the higher brain level. Okay? Yan. So, and likewise with the student, you have to send the student to a calming place to rest, to read, to do something pleasant until he gains control of himself and changes his behavior. Ito po yung halaga na meron kayong uh, peace room or peace corner, peace hub in your school, no? An area where the child can de-escalate, no? When the child is highly emotional, I will go to that peace room or to that peace area so that I can detox, so that I can de-escalate and calm myself down. Okay? So, cool off ang solusyon kapag hurt or angry ka. No, you need time. No, cool off ka muna. All right. So, give that chance to your students as well. Now, when meron namang, siguro ito yung pinakamahirap, no, na misbehavior. When a student misbehaves and then you feel like frustrated. No? Pag na-frustrate ka, ito may problema tayong malalim pagka ganito. Ay, sorry, may na-miss pala akong slide. Huh. Okay. Ay, akala ko may na-miss ako. Sorry. Alright. So, when the student misbehaves and you feel frustrated, it means that the child is lacking confidence. Kailan to nangyayari? Nahuli mo na nangongopya yung estudyante mo kasi hindi nakapag-aral. Usually naman nangongopya dahil hindi nakapag-aral. So, tapos, frustrate ka. Kasi feeling mo, bakit siya nangongopya? Eh, alam naman niya to. Bakit siya nag-cheat? Bakit hindi siya nag-aral na lang? So, disappointed ka dun sa estudyante mo, you're frustrated. Pero, ang ibig sabihin nun, the child is lacking confidence. Ibig sabihin, mag-cheat na lang ako kasi hindi ako nakapag-aral. Or hindi ko alam, hindi ko naiintindihan yung lesson. Babagsak ako kung hindi ako mag-cheat. Yun ang naging decision making ng bata. And it all stems from the child lacking confidence. The child does not trust his or her own skills and so will resort to cheating. Okay? Sometimes it's also frustrating as a teacher when sinasabi natin to sa mga estudyante, di ba tinuro ko na yan sa inyo? Di ba nag-lesson na tayo tungkol dyan? Hindi nyo pa rin alam. Hindi nyo pa rin naiintindihan. So that kind of language tells us that you as a teacher are frustrated. Okay? You're frustrated with the behavior of your students. No? And this kind of behavior is actually coming from or rooted in a lack of confidence. Natakot sila sa teacher. Hindi sila makapagtanong. Di ba? Wala silang confidence na magtanong sa teacher. Kasi they feel like, I cannot trust teacher. She will just get mad at me pag magtanong ako. Yan, yung mga estudyante tayong ganyan, no? They lack the confidence, no? The boldness. So you see it, usually nakikita nyo to sa mas bata, yung mga 4, 5, 6 years old. Ito yung mga ayaw humiwalay sa nanay nila pag may party, no? They cling to you. Or pag kinausap mo, hindi sila sasagot. No? Ay, kamusta ka na? Tapos tutungo lang na ganun. Tapos hindi sasagot. Or iiyak na lang pag napagsabihan, no? Or magdadahilan. Eh kasi teacher. Yan. Or it also comes out as a bullying behavior and they refuse to join a group. So, kasama na doon yung lying, no? Or yung pag-iimbento ng kwento to get out of the punishment, no? So, when this happens, This is deeply rooted. When the student lacks confidence, kapag umabot na sa ganitong level, yung misbehavior ng bata, it would take time and effort to build up on that skill, on that confidence. Naalala nyo in the video, di ba yung high school student na sabi niya, I'm not doing well in school. Dun sa umpisa ng video, di ba? He's not doing well in school, he's failing. Pero dahil yung teacher niya ay matyaga at nafe-feel niya na mahal siya ng teacher niya, that makes him want to learn. You get me? That makes him want to learn and want to participate. So, ibig sabihin that we need to convey to the students that they are good and that they are good enough. No? It is directed towards increasing the child's belief in themselves. No? And what are themes or ideas that we can think of and do in order to convey the message that you are good enough. No? Na yun ang gusto natin i-communicate sa estudyante natin that you are special, you are great, you are good enough. Okay. One is work for improvement, not perfection. No? So kapag nag-turn in sila ng seat work, tapos ang daming mistakes, sabihin mo na, uy, I'm sure next time mas konti na yung mistakes mo. Kasi alam mo na ngayon kung saan ka nahirapan. Comment on effort rather than results. Na parang, I like the way you use different colors in this artwork as compared to your past artwork. No? You commented on the effort. Next is to separate the deed from the doer. Ito yung mag-avoid tayo ng name calling na ang ano-ano mo kasi. Yan, no? No, it's not the student who is stupid. Okay? He did a stupid thing. Yes? The deed is separate from the doer. You also build on strength, not on weaknesses. Alright? Na you will say that, dito magaling kang mag-recite, kaya nahirapan ka sa writing activity. So, sige, can you tell me more about this topic so that I can add that to your grade? Diba? Pwede ganon. Build on strength, not on weaknesses. And you show your faith in the child. No? Showing our faith in our children means caring for them or nurturing their sense of belonging by saying supportive things to them, no? Na parang, I know you can do better next time. I know that in the next week, you will be able to do this. Yan. And then you integrate the student into the group. Lagi mo siyang isasali, no? Kahit na yung mga kaklase niya, ayaw siyang kasali, papakita mo sa mga kaklase niya na she or he, this student, deserves a place in our circle, in our group. And you help the child develop the courage to be imperfect, no? That it's okay to make mistakes. Okay lang yan because we learn from our mistakes. You avoid discouragement and you understand that praise is not the same as encouragement. Iba yun, di ba? So, praise is not the same as encouragement. Kailangan tandaan natin yung magic word na ngayon, no? So, ano ba yung pwede nating sabihin para sa mga feedback na ganyan, no? To make sure that our students will develop their self-confidence. So, marami tayong mga feedback na tinatawag nating growth mindset feedbacking to help them do better in the next time, no? Kasi we try to avoid praise. Praise yung, uy, very good ka. Uy, ang galing mo. Ang talino mo talaga. Yan yung mga praise na kailangan natin iwasan, no? Kasi minsan, hindi realistic, no? Lalo na pag sinasabi natin, napakatalino mo. Meron laging mas matalino sa kanya, lalo na sa ibang bagay. So, kailangan mag-ingat tayo paano magbigay ng feedback. So for example, sasabihin natin na, wow, siguro talagang nag-aral kang mabuti para sa test na to, no? Kasi mas mataas yung score mo dito kesa sa dati. It may not be perfect, but you got a better score. So, praise the effort. No? Sasabihin mo, you really worked hard on this one. Or, you really studied and it showed your improvement. No? Or, pwede mo sabihin na, I like the way you came up with different ways to solve the problem. Diba? Parang, uy, okay to hindi ito yung tinuro ko, pero nakahanap ka ng ibang paraan para magawa ito. Mabuti na nagawa mo yun, no? And you also praise the effort by saying na, alam mo, I like the way you are focusing on your task. No? Di ba? Sinasabi mo kung ano yung tamang ginagawa ng bata. Kasi minsan, lagi tayong, no, don't do that, stop, wag mong gawin yan, masama yan, wag ka pupunta dyan, di ba? Lagi tayong sinasabi natin kung ano yung hindi dapat gawin. But, in order to increase a child's self-esteem, we have to tell them what they are doing right. And we have to tell them in a way so that they will remember it and do it over and over again. Okay? So that is proper praise, or that is how we encourage, no? You can say things like, I see you studied more on your grade and on this test, and so it's higher, no? You never gave up. That's why you now understand this lesson. So, yun yung mga bagay na pwede natin sabihin. Okay, so I'm going to go back to your list of classroom misbehaviors. Meron ba kayong gusto idagdag? Dun sa classroom misbehavior, so di ba, in-explore natin. We identified ano ba ang behavior problem, no? Bakit ginagawa ng bata ang misbehavior? So alam natin na it's a problem behavior if it disrupts routine, disrupts the order of the class, if it neglects others and so on, or destroys relationships, then it's a problem behavior. Then we understood why do they misbehave? It's because they want to belong, but they do so in unattractive, unappealing ways, in unhealthy ways, no? And so we need to show them and guide them how to belong by using appropriate ways. And the way to do that is through encouragement, no? How to give them proper praise and encouragement. And we now can tell the purpose of the misbehavior based on how we feel when they misbehave. So I want you to go through this process of understanding behavior problems so you can address them. Okay, now how do you do that? All right, identify first, we did this. What classroom behavior problems do you observe? You already have 3 in your list, right? Next, try to put this in a column. And then on the next column, you write there, what do you think causes or triggers this behavior? Bakit ba ginagawa ito ng estudyante? Lalagay nyo yung trigger doon. And then, when you're writing the trigger, don't forget, go to the root of the problem. Kasi makulit siya, hindi yun trigger. Okay? Hindi yun cause ng misbehavior. Alright? That's a judgment that we are passing on kids, no? It may be an unfair assessment of who they are. So we try to avoid labeling and name-calling our own students. Focus on the behavior and what triggers the misbehavior. And then we will think of, by looking at the root of the misbehavior, then can we only come up with a proper solution. Now, here is an example for you. So, my problem behavior is talking. The student is talking while the lesson is going on. I'm explaining something as a teacher, but this guy over here in front of me keeps yapping and yapping. Salita ng salita, no? Hindi tuloy niya naririnig yung instructions ko. nadidisrupt pa niya yung instruction nung pinapakinggan ng kaklase niya kasi nadidistract niya. Now, kesa magalit ako, no, and that kind of behavior usually happens, no, I can stop the behavior right away, yeah? By telling niya, excuse me, I'm trying to explain something, di ba? Pwedeng ganon. Pero, bakit kaya lagi niya ginagawa yun? So, babalik ako doon sa, kasi lagi nangyayari. Tapos hindi pwedeng lagi ka na lang nagsasaway. No? Alam nyo ba na when classroom management was being studied, they found out, no, scientists, researchers have found out that 50% of the time, teachers are actually using it to discipline students or to tell them to be quiet so they can listen, no? And it's counterproductive. Imagine, kalahati nung time ng lesson na allotted for 1 hour or 40 minutes is spent on keeping the kids quiet. There's something wrong with that picture, no? So, kung nakakapagod yun as a teacher kasi lagi kang nagsasaway ng behavior. But if you go to the root of the problem, if you go do a behavior analysis chart like this, wherein you will identify what causes the trigger or what triggers this behavior, then you go to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem here, why that kid keeps talking while the lesson is ongoing, is because that kid is not interested, and usually kids are not interested in things they cannot understand. Okay? Hindi sila makikinig sa mga bagay na hindi nila naiintindihan. Okay? Ay, parang tayo rin. Parang adults din, di ba? No? Parang ayaw natin makinig sa mga bagay na hindi naman interesting sa atin. Di ba? Or it doesn't concern us. So, ganun din yung bata, no? So, that this child cannot understand the lesson. This child is having difficulty understanding the lesson because he's not interested in the lesson. Okay? Now, how do I make this child interested in the lesson is the solution I have to come up with as a teacher. All right? Now, I know that kids will be interested in a lesson if it is something they feel confident in doing, if it is something that they understand. And how do I make them understand? This is what I do. The third column says, what can you do to help this child stop this behavior? Okay, and to stop this behavior, I know that the root of the problem is that the child is having a difficulty understanding the lesson. What will I do? I will rephrase, I will modify in my instructions, make it simpler for this student to understand. Okay? And alam nyo ba, when you do that, you actually benefit the whole class. Hindi lang itong batang ito. Diba? Kasi yung iba hindi nag-misbehave pero pwede hindi rin nila naiintindihan yung lesson. And so, nag-benefit lahat. Alright? So, I want you to try to fill up this chart kahit one of the behavior problems that you listed earlier today. So, try it with one. I'm giving you about 1 to 2 minutes to complete this task. Okay? Mag-water break ko. Go ahead. Yan. So, I hope you were able to identify a classroom behavior problem. Bakit siya nag-misbehave? Remember, you can tell you can tell the purpose of the misbehavior by the feelings it elicits from you. And then, what can you do to help solve this problem? Okay? Yan. So if you do this behavior analysis chart for behavior problems that are persistent, yung paulit-ulit, laging nangyayari, laging ginagawa. Okay? Then you can do behavior analysis. Ano ba yung lagi? More than 3 times in a week. Okay? Yon. That would tell you. Madalas siya, it's a behavior problem if it happens more than 3 times in a week. Pero kung minsan-minsan lang naman siya, then it's something that you can manage, in other ways. You don't need to do a behavior analysis chart. Okay? Yeah. But, I won't stop you from analyzing all the behaviors in your class if you have time to do that. Go ahead, and that will improve your practice. Ang tatandaan lang natin lagi is that the absence of punishment is not the same as an absence of discipline. Remember, discipline does not mean punishment. When you discipline, you, you can discipline peacefully when you encourage, when you support sense of belonging, and when you create a positive climate in your classroom. Okay? So, and as peace educators, doesn't mean that we are permissible. Doesn't mean that we will tolerate misbehaviors. We have to remember that all feelings are acceptable, but aggressive behaviors are not. So, hindi po yan pinapalagpas. Okay? So, that needs to be addressed. Alright? Now, there are 3 things to remember when we peacefully discipline. And what are these 3 things? It's hard kasi you first have to regulate yourself. Yan. Balik po tayo sa session number 1 natin on self-awareness and inner peace. Teaching discipline is not about what the child does. Like I said, it's about how we respond. So regulate yourself. No? Remember, make decisions by using your higher brain, no? Waiting 10 seconds when you're mad. Pag nagalit ka, wait 10 seconds before you react. Okay. Number 2, you foster connection. Just like in the video, children thrive when they feel connected and understood. Simple lang, di ba, yung teacher na may high five sa umaga or may morning hugs or kinakamusta niya isa-isa yung mga estudyante, that fosters connections. And lastly, coach, not control. Emotionally coach your students to help them handle their emotions rather than controlling for immediate compliance. Sana iwasan natin yung pagsabi ng huwag ka iiyak, di ba? Or pagsabi ng um, na magsorry ka. Kailangan you let students handle their emotions. That means you spend time with them to coach them in feeling what they feel, because like I said, all feelings are valid. Okay, but aggressive behavior is not. And so bago siya umabot sa aggressive behavior, kailangan i-address siya through coaching, not controlling students. Let them feel what they feel and express it to you as their teacher, counselor, di ba? And then help them to figure out ways to resolve the issues without violent means. And when I say violent means, hindi lang physical violence, may psychological or verbal violence din tayong iniisip. Ngayon that we are online, itong tips na pinag-usapan natin, itong ways na pinag-usapan natin, these are also information you can use to coach your home learning partners. Coach the parents, no? Whatever you learned today in this session, sulit nyo dyan sa notes nyo na, ay, maganda to sabihin kay doon sa nanay ni ganito. Ay, maganda to sabihin doon sa tatay ni ganito. Diba? Nagbabaon ka na, naghahanda ka na. Kasi, itong discipline tips, ang suggestion ko, incorporate nyo sa LAS ng mga estudyante. You can put a peaceful parenting tip. Yan. peaceful parenting tip. So, and then you can put the discipline practice that we are discussing doon sa peaceful parenting tip. Di ba? So, kasi hindi nyo nakikita yung estudyante, pero sa bahay, nakikita ng magulang yung mga misbehavior na ito. So, kailangan din nila ng coach, di ba? Kailangan din nila ng support. And that is one way to support the home learning partners as they do the most important task of all, which is to deliver instruction for us. Okay? So, we need, our children deserve the best we have to give them using the knowledge that is available to us. No? Even if it means we have to learn new ways to be. And the online, the new normal, is very challenging. So, an additional challenge for us peace educators is to include parents in the equation of online learning, of modular learning, di ba? So, makakatulong tayo in creating a positive climate and sense of belonging in their homes by giving peaceful parenting tips that you can get from this session today. No? So, gamitin nyo yan. Help the parents understand their children's behavior as well. No? So, you can give them peaceful parenting tips. Pwede nyo isama yan. Na, ang isa nyo pang pwede isama is yung paggamit ng positive dialogue. No? So, dadaanan natin ngayon yung positive dialogue. So, kapag nag-misbehave ang bata, and then nag-pull off kayo, no? Kunwari, nag-tantrum siya, wala siya, edi mag-pull off muna kayo. Kapag ready na yung bata makipag-usap sa'yo, ako kasi, ganun ako sa anak ko, no? 7 years old, 6 years old pa lang siya, or 5 years old pa lang. Kapag nag-tantrum siya, or nag-misbehave siya, syempre, pipigilan ko siya, no? From hurting himself and others. And then, kailangan ilayo ko siya from the negative environment that stimulates the misbehavior. Tatanggalin ko siya doon. Magta-time out muna kami, or what I call actually time in by mag-calming kami. Mag-read kami ng book, or may gagawin kami na quiet time. Okay. Pag kalmado na siya, doon ko pa lang siya kakausapin. Maraming instances, lalo na nung mas matanda na siya, 7 years old, 8 years old, na siya na yung nagta-time in sa sarili niya. And then, tatanungin ko lang siya, ready ka na ba makipag-usap? Sasabihin niya kan sa akin, Mama, hindi pa ako ready. And then, maya-maya, minsan ang tagal, minsan naman ang bilis, sasabihin niya, Mama, ready na ako. Mom, I'm ready to talk. Yan, ganyan na siya. So, then the positive dialogue can start. So, one thing about positive dialogue is that you recognize the child's feelings. You help them express their feelings by labeling. Maraming instances that children misbehave because they cannot label their feelings, no? They cannot label their needs. And then, they need the adult to label it for them. So, dyan tayo papasok. Alam ko galit ka sa akin kasi hindi kita pinayagan lumabas. Pero, merong IATF ruling ngayon na ang mga batang nasa labas, huhulihin yung magulang. Hindi po totoo yun. Pero, isa pong example yun, no? That you're mad at me because of this and this and this. But, kailangan nyo explain. State the but to help the child realize that others have needs too. Okay? So, we are recognizing that children are still egocentric, wherein they only see the world in their selfish or personal viewpoints, right? However, it is our duty as the teachers and as the adult who guide them to veer away from that, no? To help them reach the milestone wherein they are recognizing the needs of others. Because that is a socio-emotional milestone for young children to realize that others have needs too. So you're doing that by positive dialogue or by expressing this. Another thing that you can do is kapag may conflict, no, kapag may nangyari, is you offer a solution or two good choices. For example, ayaw niya sumunod sa'yo, ayaw niya gawin yung pinapagawa mo. So, bibigyan mo siya ng time, no? Kaya, pwede mo sabihin, soon we'll all be ready to do our activity. Okay? So, hintayin mo siya kung mahihintay mo. Ngayon, kung hindi mo siya mahihintay, kailangan i-redirect mo, bibigyan mo siya ng ibang activity. Like, okay, habang naghihintay tayo, would you like to wipe the tables or pack away the blocks on the floor so we can finish faster and go play at the playground? No? Kunwari, ang gusto niya gawin, maglaro na sa playground, ngayon na. Pero, hindi pa kayo tapos sa activity. So, bibigyan mo siya ng dalawang choices na pwede niyang gawin. Ano yung pwede niyang gawin na makakatulong? Okay? Sige, pwede kang magligpit ng tables or ng blocks. Ano mas gusto mo? No? Siya ang may agency to decide the activity while waiting for the task that he wants to do, which is to go play at the playground. Okay? So offer two good choices. Another thing that you do is you indicate your confidence in the child's ability and willingness to learn. Okay, ito yung paulit-ulit natin sinasabi, di ba? Growth mindset, no? So, not giving up on the child, no? Kasi minsan, kapag lagi natin sinasabi, naku, ikaw, napakakulit mo talaga. Lagi na lang hindi mo sinusunod, hindi ka nakikinig, hindi ka marunong. Hindi po nakakatulong yun. That's not indicating your confidence in the child's ability and willingness to learn. That's contradicting, di ba? Ang sasabihin natin dapat, alam ko naman next time, marunong ka na. Okay? I know you can wait longer for your turn next time. Okay? Soon, I believe you will realize that getting someone's things hurts you and others. So, pag nagkamali or nanakit, alam ko, marirealize mo din na, or alam ko, dahil sa nangyari, natuto ka na hindi saktan ang kaklase mo kasi maaaring magkasakit or talagang ma-hospital yung kaklase mo kung pinalo mo siya ng stick or ng bato, binato mo siya. Diba? So, sasabihin mo yung belief or confidence mo in the child's ability and willingness to learn. Okay, so, ngayon, pag medyo mas matanda na yung bata, mga 6, 7 years old and above, ito naman yung mga pwede nating sabihin na consists of positive dialogue as well. Basta avoid accusations, no? Let's be respectful. Hindi porke tayo ang nakakatanda, pwede na nating lait-laitin yung bata at bigyan siya ng hindi siya respetuhin o galangin, no? Kung gusto niyo maging respectful at magalang ang bata, kayo ang mauna. Tayo dapat ang maging respectful sa kanila. Okay? Para matutunan nila yan. You also avoid confusion by giving clear, simple directions in a firm and friendly voice. Tandaan natin na kapag sumisigaw tayo dahil galit tayo, hindi tayo pakikinggan. Sino bang gusto makinig? Sa taong nagmumura, sa taong nagkagalit, sa taong nagkikriticize lang. Di ba? Hindi natin gusto makinig sa mga taong gano'n. Hindi natin pakikinggan yun. Ang pakikinggan natin is encouragement. Ang pakikinggan natin is ganito ang dapat mo gawin. Okay, next time anak, ito na lang ang gawin natin. Pwede ba yun anak? Pwede ba anak next time, wag mo kakalimutan yung notebook mo sa bahay? Kasi tignan mo, hindi ka tuloy nakakopya ng notes natin ngayong araw na to. Uulitin mo pa yan. Diba? So you give simple, clear directions in a firm and friendly voice, and you avoid criticizing or saying, never mo kasi ito sinusunod, or wag mo gawin ng ganyan, mali yan, mali ka, di ba? So, hindi nakakatulong, wag sabihin. Alright? And, tell them what they are supposed to do. At yung sinabi ko kanina, no? Tell them we have to learn the behavior as peace educators to tell the expectations, to tell our children what they are supposed to do rather than what they are not supposed to do. Okay? So, meron tayong i-unlearn na habit, no? Which is, instead of criticizing, you have to tell them what you're expecting. Now, if a conflict occurs between two children, nag-away, there is what we call restorative practice, okay, or restorative justice process that you can do with young children. And I'm going to walk you through this, um, and I hope that this will help you. No, now a restorative practice is a response to inappropriate behavior that puts repairing the harm done to relationships and to people over and above the need for assigning blame and dispensing punishment. Very peaceful para sa akin ang restorative practice kasi instead of um, uh, teaching children to get punished for a wrongdoing, you give them the power to repair or to make right the wrong that they did. Di ba mas maganda yun? Mas peaceful yon. So, it's a non-violent way of resolving conflict, no? Bakit? Why is it important to choose restorative practice, no? One is that it supports the practice of building, maintaining, and mending relationships, especially of students from chaotic homes. A lot of times, our students pwedeng produkto din sila ng poor parenting practices. 'Di ba? Or napapabayaan sila sa bahay, and school is their only safe place where they have a trusting adult, which is who? Us, the teachers. Tayo lang yung pwede nila pagkatiwalaan apart from their parents, no? So they are taught how to deal with conflict in non-violent ways, and consequently, sana ma-apply nila ito sa bahay. Yan. Kapag nasanay natin ang mga estudyante na pag-resolve ng mga problema nila in a non-violent way, dadalhin nila ito hanggat sa paglaki nila. Okay? It also teaches pupils consequences. And when you teach pupils consequences, they feel more responsible and accountable for their own actions. Na kapag they misbehave, and they realize the consequence, kasi nakita nila yung effect ng misbehavior nila, they own it, no? They become responsible for it. Hindi yung i-blame nila sa ibang tao kung bakit sila nag-misbehave, no? Restorative practice is a way for us, the wrongdoers, to realize the effects of our wrongdoing and to take responsibility for correcting it. And so, we are accountable to others. Kaya maganda to kasi there is a sense of justice na nanggagaling from ikaw mismo. It also gives a voice to pupils and even to staff who are victims in an incident. In fact, pati sa teachers or sa colleagues, pwede kayong mag-restorative practice. Now, to appreciate this better, we have a diagram on what we call the restorative matrix, no? So, ano ba yung goal ng restoration? Ano ang goal ng restorative practice? Okay? It is, we want our students to follow the rules, kasi that's a peaceful way, you have to follow the rules, and we want to support our students as they do so. Because if we don't support our students when they are making mistakes, then they will make more mistakes and have more consequences. Diba? So, kung papansin niyo, dito sa matrix na to, when you do permissive or neglectful, mataas yung support. Warm. Diba? Mataas yung support when you're doing things for each other. Okay? Or when you are not doing things to or for with each other, but you are being neglectful, no? So, mababa yung support dyan, pero sa permissive, mataas yung support, pero low yung adherence sa rules. Hindi natututo yung bata na kapag pag hindi mo pinansin yung misbehavior or kapag rinescue mo yung bata na kawawa naman kasi, hayaan mo na lang, yung ganyan. Hindi sila natututo to follow rules. Okay? Yun ang ngayon, kapag naman you're doing things to each other, for example, very punitive yung way of discipline or of restoring conflicts or resolving conflict pala, then you stigmatize. Kasalanan niya eh. Ikaw kasi. Yan. Okay, very punitive. Dahil ikaw ang may kasalanan, ikaw ang magbubuhat ng mga water container natin paakyat sa 5th floor. Yan. So, mataas yung adherence sa rules, pero very low yung support. Pag low ang support, malaki yung chance na mauulit ang misbehavior. Okay? Mauulit ang conflict kasi low yung support. Hindi na feel ng mga bata or nung those involved na they are responsible for the consequences of their actions. Diba? They just know that, kailangan sumunod ako kasi rule yan. And may punishment kapag hindi ako sumunod. Pero pwede, if they get away with it, then they will commit the crime again. Nakakalusot eh, kung hindi mahuli. Diba? Kasi yung punitive, yung number 1, nangyayari lang yan kapag nahuli. Pag di nahuli, hindi na. Kasi low ang support. Hindi na realize ng people involved or ng pupils involved that they are accountable to each other. Na may pananagutan sila sa kapwa nila. Hindi nila nakukuha yan kapag low ang support. Kaya dito tayo, as peace educators, dito tayo sa restorative. We do things with each other. It's very collaborative, it's cooperative, and it's being accountable. High in support, high in adherence to following the rules. Okay? So, students, pupils understand that they have to follow the rules because people care about you and you care about others and that you affect one another. It's a caring culture that we are promoting. It's very peaceful. Kaya dyan tayo. Okay? So, ganyan kahalaga ang restorative practice. Okay? Excited na ba kayo paano gawin ang restorative practice? Okay. So, di ba? Sabi ko sa inyo, maglista kayo ng 3 bagay na classroom behavior problems. I'm pretty sure that one of the things that we listed there is when students fight. Okay? So, bibigyan ko kayo ng conflict situation. No? A usual conflict situation is when learners fight in school. So, halimbawa, ito, 2 learners had a fight because Crispin teased Basilio about acting gay. Yung sabi, bakla ka kasi. Diba? Yan. Umpisa na yan. Nagalit si Basilio. Basilio got mad and punched Crispin. Paano tayo magre-restorative justice dyan? Ano yung mangyayaring siya? So, ang gagawin natin dyan, pagkakalmado na si Crispin at si Basilio, so syempre pinaghiwalay muna sila kasi nagsuntukan sila, pakakalmahin muna sila sa Peace Hub. And pagkakalmado na sila, saka sila paghaharapin, paghanda na silang pag-usapan yung naganap na incident. Okay? And kapag handa na silang pag-usapan, ito yung mga tanong na kailangan natin itanong. Okay. To the person who caused harm. So, sino ba nag-cause ng harm? Di ba? Una, si Crispin, tinawag niya si Basilio na bakla. So, nag-cause ng harm yon. So, sasabihin natin yan kay Crispin. Crispin, pag-uusapan natin kung ano yung nangyari kanina. Kwento mo naman, ano yung iniisip mo? What were you thinking when you did that? Ano yung iniisip mo nung nangyari yon? Bakit mo naisip na tawagin bakla si Basilio? And then papakwento niyo si Crispin. So habang nagkukwento si Crispin, tatanungin niyo siya, Tama ba yung ginawa natin? Tama ba yung pagtawag ng bakla sa ibang tao? Bakit hindi? Hindi tama. Sige, bakit hindi tama? Kasi ganito, ganito, ganito. Diba? So, may mga dahilan. And sinong nasaktan dahil sa sinabi mo? Si Basilio ang nasaktan. Paano siya nasaktan? Kasi po, hindi naman totoo yun. Okay. So, how has that affected you? Ano nangyari sa iyo, Crispin, dahil sa ginawa mo? Sinuntok po ako ni Basilio. And actually, si Basilio, si Crispin, person who got harmed din siya kasi sinuntok siya eh. So, dalawang round yung gagawin natin dito. Ngayon, to the person harmed, si Basilio muna ang tatanungin. O Basilio, ikaw naman, anong inisip mo nung nangyari yan? Okay? And anong nangyari sa'yo? Anong naramdaman mo nung tinawag ka, nung tinukso ka ni Crispin? Papa-express nyo yan kay Basilio. And then, anong pwedeng gawin ni Basilio, ni Crispin, para hindi ka na magalit or hindi na sumama ang loob mo. So, kailangan marinig ni Crispin kung ano ang gusto ni Basilio to repair the harm done. And then, uulitin nyo tong questions na to. Kasi, the situation calls for both of them getting harmed and both of them causing harm to each other. So, kailangan ulitin to. Diba? Pero pagbabalik talin ng roles, no? Na next time, si Crispin yung person harmed at si Basilio is the person who caused harm. So, dalawang aspeto. So, ganun ang restorative chat. Ang mahalaga dito, naririnig nung taong nakasakit ng damdamin, yung nararamdaman nung taong nasaktan niya. At sinasabi naman nung taong nasaktan kung paano mare-repair yung pain niya. Paano maiibsan yung nararamdaman niyang pain. No? How to repair the relationship. How to repair the harm done. That's the focus. Okay? Maaring sabihin ni Basilio na dapat mag-sorry siya sa akin kasi hindi naman totoo yung sinasabi niya. Okay, yun. So, Christine, kapag ready siya, will apologize to Basilio. Basilio, sorry ha, na tinawag kitang ganun. Next time, hindi na ako manunukso kahit sa ibang bata kasi nakakasakit siya ng damdamin. And then the other way around, Basilio will now have to apologize for punching Crispin, di ba? So, ganun din yun. So, that's the beauty of restorative chat. Hindi natin sila pinipilit, mag-sorry ka, ng madalian. Kasi we have to process the emotions that are embedded in the situation. If we don't process the emotions, lalaki yan. Okay? That's how wars begin. When unresolved emotions are not put to peace, no? When unresolved issues like this or conflicts are not resolved. Kaya nagiging barkada. Mamaya yung barkada ni Crispin, galit na sa barkada ni Basilio, tapos may conflict na sila, na ongoing, tapos lalaki ng lalaki. Pati mga magulang nila mai-involve na, naku, problema talaga yan. No? So, kailangan iwasan natin, and restorative chat is a way to help that. Okay? So, I hope, alam nyo ba, ito pala may tip ako ha, ang pwede nyo gawin, take a picture of these questions. Yan, take a picture of these questions. Para kapag may conflict na nangyari, kunin mo yung phone mo para hindi ka makakalimot ng itatanong mo doon sa processing ng restorative chat between two conflicting parties. Okay? So, ang teachers namin meron ganyan. Nasa phone nila or nung una, pinrint out namin ng maliliit tapos nasa bulsa nila. Para hindi nila malimot. Lalo na nung umpisa namin ginagawa ang restorative chat. Okay? So I hope that helps in your practice of creating a culture of peace in our schools. We have to remember that peaceful discipline is teaching children self control, self help, and ways to get along. Okay? And it is also getting along and following school rules by setting healthy limits and encouraging desired behaviors and making decisions about managing children. Peaceful discipline does not mean you punish them. Okay? Peaceful discipline means you teach teach self-control, self-help, and ways to get along with others, as well as ways to follow school rules and setting limits so that you encourage desired behaviors. Ang ganda, di ba? So let's reframe the way we look at discipline. Discipline is not the same as before. We now, as peace educators, are called upon to perform the task of peaceful discipline methods. Okay? Now, to end this session, just want you to remember one thing. This will not happen overnight. Okay? Ginot says, discipline is a series of little victories, not something that occurs overnight. Okay? Hindi po ito prosesong madali, hindi po ito prosesong mabilis, um, pero ito po ay prosesong mahalaga. Kaya dapat gawin. And that ends our session today on peaceful classroom management in order to create a peaceable school. I hope you learned something new today from me. Thank you.